Hello, guys. How are you today? We are back. We are back to, I hope you had a wonderful weekend. Um, we are back to read our book club, a little bit about our book club today. We're going to do two because they're really short. So, yeah, it's the complete visions of Anne Catherine Emmerich. And right now we're going to read about a glance of the obduracy of the Pharisees. Obduracy is a word that means stubborn and obstinance, right?
Yes.
So for the Pharisees. And then Ken's gonna read John promised to Zachary.
Yes.
So it's day 26 and 27 today. We're doing it together, making it 26. Okay. How obdurate and obstinate the priests and the Pharisees of the temple were may be discovered from the small esteem in which they held the distinctions bestowed upon the Holy Family. First, Joachim's offering was rejected, but after some months, both his own and his wife's were, by God's command, received. Joachim was admitted even into the presence of the Holy of Holies, and he, as well as Anne, was, though unknown to each other, led into the passage under the temple. There they met. Mary was conceived, and priests awaited them at the entrance of this cave under the temple. All that took place by God's command. I have seen that sometimes, though not often, the sterile were commanded to be led in there. Mary entered the temple in her 4th year, and in all things was she distinguished and remarkable. The sister of Lazarus' mother was her teacher and nurse. Her whole manner of acting was so remarkable, so marvelous, that I have seen great roles written by aged priests about her. I think they still lie hidden within other writings. Then came the wonderful manifestations of Joseph's espousals and the blossoming of his rod, the accounts of the 3 kings and of the shepherds, the presentation of Jesus, Anna's and Simeon's testimony, and the teaching of Jesus at the age of 12 in the temple. But all this the priests and Pharisees noticed not. Their mind was preoccupied by busyness and court affairs, because the Holy Family lived in voluntary retirement and poverty. They were forgotten in the crowd. No more enlightened, however, such as Simeon, Anna, and others knew of them.
The more enlightened.
Oh, sorry. The more enlightened, however, such as Simeon, Anna, and others knew of them. But when Jesus appeared and John bore witness to him, the teaching of the Pharisees was so directly contradictory that even if the signs of his coming had not been forgotten by them, they would certainly not have made them known. Herod's reign and the Roman yoke had so involved them in quarrels and intrigues that their taste for spiritual things was weakened. They did not esteem John's testimony, and they soon forgot him after he was beheaded. They cared little for the teachings and miracles of Jesus, and their ideas of the prophets and the Messiah were altogether erroneous. It is not surprising, therefore, that they so shamefully treated Jesus and put him to death, that they disavowed his resurrection, his wonderful signs that followed it, and even the fulfillment of his prophecy respecting the destruction of Jerusalem. Nor it is to be wondered At that, they neglected the signs that herald his advent, since he had not at that time either taught or wrought miracles. Were the blindness, the obduracy of these men not so incomprehensibly great? Could it have lasted even to this day? When I go over the way of the cross in Jerusalem of the present day, I frequently see under a certain ruined building a large vault of many adjoining vaults, which are partly fallen in and filled with water. Standing in the midst of the water, which rises almost to the level with it, is a table. From the center of the table to the roof of the vault rises a pillar around which are hung little coffers filled with rolls of writings. Under the table also I saw rolls lying in the water. Perhaps these vaults were once burial places. They lie under Mount Calvary. I think the ruined building is the house wherein Pilate once dwelt, and the treasure will after some time be discovered.
Oh,
Wow.
wow. Wow. Okay. We're going to read both and then we'll do our commentary.
Yeah.
That way, if you choose not to listen to commentary, you can go right off. John promised to Zachary. I saw Zachary conversing with Elizabeth. He was telling her how sad he was because his turn to offer sacrifice in the temple was drawing near, and how he dreaded the contempt that would there await him on account of his being childless. Zachary went twice a year to the temple. He did not live in Hebron itself, but at a place called Judah, about 15 minutes walk from Hebron. The ruins of former buildings still lay between the two places, heading one to fancy that they had once been connected. Many such ruins were to be found on the other side of Hebron, for the place was once as large as Jerusalem. At Hebron dwelt priests of a lower degree in Judah. Those of a higher rank, those of a higher rank. Zachary seemed to be the superior of them all. He and Elizabeth were regarded with extraordinary veneration from the fact of both having descended in a direct line from the race of Aaron. I saw Zachary with many people of this locality going to a little property that he owned in a neighborhood of Judah. It consisted of a house, an orchard, Judah, and a spring. I saw him there also with the Holy Family at the time of Mary's visitation, at the period of which I am speaking. Zachary was teaching the people and praying with them. It seemed to be a preparation of a feast. He told them of his great dejection and of his I don't know if that means predicament, that something remarkable was going to happen to him. Again, I saw Zachary with the same people going to Jerusalem, where he had to wait 4 days before his turn to sacrifice came round. Until that time, he prayed in the forepart of the temple. At last, when his turn came, he went into the sanctuary outside the entrance of the Holy of Holies. The roof over the altar of incense was opened so that the sky could be seen. The priest offering sacrifice was not visible to those outside. A partition concealed him, but the smoke of the incense could be seen rising. I think Zachary told the other priests that he must be left alone, for I saw them leaving the sanctuary. Zachary went into the Holy of Holies, where it was dark. It appeared to me that he took the tables of the law out of the Ark of the Covenant and laid them upon the golden altar of incense. When he kindled the incense, he saw to the right of the altar a light coming down on him, and in a luminous figure, and in it a luminous figure. Zachary, frightened, stepped back and sank as if in ecstasy at the right side of the altar. An angel raised him up and spoke some words to him. Zachary replied, "Then I saw something like a ladder let down from heaven, and two angels ascending and descending to him. One took something from him, but the other, after Zachary had opened his garment, inserted a shining little body in his side. Zachary had become dumb. I saw him before leaving the Holy of the Holies, writing on a little tablet that lay here. This tablet he sent at once to Elizabeth, who likewise had a vision at that same hour. I saw that the people outside were troubled and anxious on account of Zachary's remaining so long in the sanctuary. They were even moving toward the door to open it when Zachary replaced the tables in the ark and came forth. The crowd questioned him on his long stay in the sanctuary. He tried to answer but could not. He signified to them by signs that he had become dumb and went away. Zachary was a tall and exceedingly majestic man. Okay, now all of that, I want to look a little something up, which I'll pause. But first, I want to go to the first reading that you read. I thought this was very, very amazing. So the priests and Pharisees were obstinate and stubborn. Well, they're still that. And then, was there anything you were thinking before I go on?
Well, I think it's pretty awesome so far that when angels come down, they come down with ladders. When you see a vision, whatever, I never thought of this before until I read this book with you. This is like the second or third time that we noticed that when there's like a vision or something, there's a ladder, like a stairway to heaven. That's so cool. Yeah. Anyway, that's what stayed in my mind.
Yeah, visions are symbolism. Remember, God speaks to us without language in symbols. So a ladder is, connecting heaven and earth.
Yeah.
And when you think of mass. So yeah, that
cool.
Stood out to me as well. So here we are. First, Joachim's offer was rejected. And I'm like, what? It was first rejected? But then some months, both his own and his wife's were by God's command received. So I thought that was interesting. Once again, humans are trying to stop God from doing his job. And usually he allows free will. But in this case, he says, no, this has to happen. And it just goes to show you God's will can override humans' will, whether we want it to or not. But does he always intervene? No, because he allows our free will. It's just like people say, well, why did God allow this crime to happen to me? And I've had a crime happen to me, so I know that feeling. But God, remember how it said, God permits evil to to bring about a greater good. He does not make it happen. He allows other human beings free will, because remember, we're on a test, and he has to give us free will so we can choose him or choose hell. I mean, it really is that simple. And people want to make it all mysterious and so much more. But what we do and what we choose to do in our life is choosing where we go for eternal life. And not to say that if we don't choose perfectly all the time, we will be going straight to hell. No, we have the chance to say, I believe. It just depends on how long we end up in purgatory. And I'm sorry, but I want to try to get, I know I'll have some purgatory time because I was no saint.
No, don't say that. We can't say that. We got to strive for heaven.
True.
We got to strive for heaven because it's too easy. Once you decide, then you're deciding your outcome.
True. But that's why I'm trying to do the Saint Bridget. I'm also saying, please let my mom, because my mom, she was, almost a saint. My mom was lived a very clean life. I actually lived a very clean life. But I made some mistakes, where I made some.
We all have, we're human.
Right. So, but basically, once I recognized, then, but I didn't realize what I was walking into, which a lot of humans do, because it comes from that earthly need. And then we end up putting our souls in jeopardy, which I did. But it is what brought me close.
You repented, so those sins are gone. Don't look in the past.
And God permitted me to do that. And guess what? It brought a greater good, because I didn't know God until then. Until I looked evil in the eye, I remember thinking, I remember thinking, going into like churches and all. And I tried Protestant churches when I was a kid. My mom allowed that. I went to Mormon church. I went to, with friends. And I have to say that I would go and I would be like, I couldn't grasp God. I could not get my brain around him. So until I chose evil and went the wrong direction unknowingly or whatever, I then recognized. But it still took me some time, which happens in conversions. We're always converting from the time we wake up until the end of our life. We are in conversion our whole life. It's just that dramatic moment of conversion that happens, seems like, wow, this is my conversion. No, but we're always converting. Okay, so in any case, so here we are. Joachim's offering was rejected, and the priests are trying to reject it. And God says, no, this you're going to accept. He's going to override their will, which we know he can. Joachim was admitted even into the presence of the Holy of Holies, and he, as well as Anne, was unknown to each other, led into the passage under the temple. So I was like, what? I don't know if they always did this, led them to this passageway under the temple. Like, did everyone that was given an offering get to go to the Holy of Holies? That's really cool. Yeah, that was kind of really interesting. So there they met. Mary was conceived, and the priests awaited them at the entrance of this cave under the temple that took place by God's command. So when they say there they met, Mary was conceived, and priests awaited them at the entrance, and all this took place by God's command. So like, that is the Immaculate Conception. So I never realized it's very similar to Christ, where she was placed there. So, but they never say that God is Mary's father. They say Joachim is Mary's father.
Because I think remember the holy thing? The holy thing was put into, I think it was Joachim or something. And so, of course, they had relations.
Right.
She
Oh,
wasn't
right.
born immaculately, but there was a holy essence that when they conceived was there. So I mean,
But the actual
Isaiah
conception.
55:8-9, his ways are so much
No,
higher
no.
than
We
ours.
can't
There's no
do
way.
Isaiah 55:8-9 all the time. Listen, there they met. Mary was conceived, and the priest awaited them at the entrance of the cave under the temple. All this took place by God's command. So now, of course, this is a vision, but still, they're saying that's when Mary was conceived. So God can take something from Joachim without sex and put it in Mary if he chooses to. That's Isaiah 55:8-9. Okay.
Of
So
course.
so
We just
but
don't know.
yeah. So if her vision is correct, wow. And does everyone go to the Holy of Holies under this passageway? That's that blew my mind.
Well, wasn't it that only priests can go in the Holy of Holies?
That's what I'm saying.
Or else they get killed, they get zapped.
That's what I'm saying.
Remember Moses' time, they were getting zapped left and right.
But they said Joachim was admitted even into the presence of the Holy of Holies. And he, as well as Anne, was, although unknown to each other, led into a passage under the temple. So does that mean everyone who is bringing an offering, or is it just because they say even into the presence? Joachim was admitted even into the presence. So it sounds
he was very holy. He was like
so
a
it
priest.
Sounds right. So it sounds like only he and Anne were allowed there. So I just thought that was pretty amazing.
Yeah, and Joachim must have been very special because was he from the line of Levi? I don't think so.
Not from the line of Levites, no, because they're the priests. But he was very special.
Yeah, that's why they were allowed.
Right. And remember, he's even though Joseph is the line where it comes from the king because it has to come from a father. Mary, if you look at their trees, they intersect, which was extremely common and is fine as long as it's past fifth cousins, I believe. That there won't be any genetic thing. So Mary came from the line of the kings, just like Joseph did. So yes. I just think that is so amazing. Anyway, yeah. So then it says, I have seen sometimes, though not often, the sterile were commanded to be led in there. So here she does say that the sterile, meaning the priests, meaning that they were not men who had sexual relations. They were forget what they call that. But anyway, the sterile were actually the priests weren't sterile back then, but they were, a lot of them were married and all that, the Jewish priests. So evidently the sterile were commanded to be led in there. Maybe they're, that's meant to be the Levites. I don't know. So Mary entered, I just realized something. I wonder if those that anyway, okay, let's forget that. Mary entered the temple in her 4th year. So she was 4 years old. So now we know for sure she turned from 3 to 4. All that journey and all that took place. Remember, 3 and 3 months. So that all that journey and all that took 9 months because
that's what I thought.
Yeah, it progressed, and those months it took time for all her to end up in the actual temple. So that's what this tells us, if these are correct. And in all these things she was distinguished and remarkable. Well, there are some child prodigies at 3 and 4 years old that we've heard of. So wouldn't God choose someone who had a very high intelligence, because they had a very important mission. And that's what I noticed. Some of the families that really contribute to the church and are very pious and good Catholics, I notice about them, their families are very pious from day one. They don't seem to walk into the things that I walked into and this and that. Not to say God doesn't use people like us. He does. But certain people are set aside. They have that, well, we all have that predestination because we already made our choices. God knows how we're going to choose. But still, there are certain families that really rise to the top. There are some cream of the crop families and people, the saints, I am like, wow, they're so lucky. I wish I was them. There's a little bit of like, oh, wow, I wish I was them. Not to say I envy, which is the sin part, that, jealousy is normal. Envy is sin. That's where that comes together. Jealousy can lead to envy. I don't begrudge them that, but I think, wow, there's, those families, that seem not to have the curses my family had. It's just like, wow. Anyway, so here she was, and the sister of Lazarus' mother was her teacher and nurse. All of these people knew each other. This was, remember, the world was much smaller then. We have billions now. There weren't that many human beings. It took time for, for populations to grow, and families stuck together in tribes to survive. We now don't need our tribe to survive. That's why there's so much dislocation in families. We don't need our family to survive anymore, which is a sad thing in a way, because families become far apart. It's just the nuclear family today. It's the mother, the father, and the kids. And we've, a lot of the elderly have been discarded because it's like, well, we don't need you. I mean, look at some people, even like Meghan Markle and Prince Harry, what they're doing to her and his family. Just totally shameful. So just sad. So we are able to discard. Now, there were always the people in the group, in families, that maybe were not easy to deal with and maybe did get discarded unfairly, because that's just human beings. We often, if we don't like someone, we get away from them. So I think that did happen back then, but there was always someone who loved that person and took them food. Like when you think of those people that had the rashes, the what do you call it, that were in villages by themselves. What was that disease?
Leprosy.
Yeah, leprosy. There was always the loving people that took them food and did what they could. So anyway, I just thought that was interesting. So then she sees these great roles written by elderly priests about Mary, and they are still lie hidden with other writings. This was so fascinating, Jeanette. They still discover things. Could you imagine if they discovered about Mary? Well, the Protestant world would go apoplectic. They would be like, what? Those have to be fake. They're like the Pharisees. They'll never believe it. But it just was like, wow, there are hidden roles about Mary. And she says it, I kind of picture they're up under this eave of a rooftop from the way she's talking. So it's like, wow, is this could this really be real? They already did say they found things because of her writings. Remember? They found some of the apocryphal writings. They found some of the apocryphal writings. They found some things because of her, because I remember, if you look, she has a website. I think it's AnnCatherineEmmerich.com or .org, one of those. I'll find it. It is every day. It's put into our Facebook, because you could put more on Facebook than you can YouTube. So if you're watching this on YouTube, you can go to my Facebook, Hen Jacobson. And I tried to make it Catholic teaching, but they made me change it because a Protestant went in there and was mad. So anyway, so yeah, so that was interesting. That was interesting. Like, could these be up under a roof and an eave when they, will they find it someday? Like, could
How about in water? They said that she sees a lot of them also in water.
Right. And when you think about it, Juan Diego's that thing that is on a certain paper or whatever it is, they say that should not have survived 500 years, and it has. So could these rolls still like not have fallen apart if God wants them to? That's Isaiah 55, blah blah blah, whatever it is, 8-9. So
55, anyway. 8-9, yeah.
There you go.
That's one of my favorite readings. You guys know very well.
I know, but I don't want you to use it all the time. Anyway, because I
know, but sometimes we try to analyze it too much.
Yeah, you're right.
We got to look at our heart and our faith. What is faith? Faith is stop trying to analyze so much. Just trust that that's what God did. It's in the Bible. Trust the Bible,
You're right, but there is a thing.
I know. Scientific people. I'm more emotional.
God, yeah, it's okay. I'm more head. Yeah, that's why we get together, that 15 inches or that 12 inches, you and I, that's what brings us together. And that's why God led me to you. But anyway, so they came the wonderful manifestation and the blossoming of his rod and the accounts of the three kings and the shepherd. So that's that. Isn't that Aaron's rod? Yes.
I don't know.
So if you ever see the pictures of the flower and the greenery coming out of the rod, that's what I see when I see this. So, yeah. And I
could have done it to others also, to other opportunities or other questions. He could have used the same thing. So I'm not sure if that's exactly Aaron's rod or if it's some other situation.
But they do say it's the accounts of the three kings and the shepherds and the presentation of Jesus, Anna's and Simeon's testimony and the teaching of Jesus.
I would love to find that.
At the age of 12. So I love how she brings Jesus, and we're about to go into that after these two. So I love that. And when you think about it, it sounds to me like she's talking about that rod that is put into the Ark of the Covenant.
The Ark of the Covenant, yeah.
Right. So that's what it sounds like to me.
Yeah.
So, but all of this, the Pharisees noticed not. What else is new? Just like the priests to be like they're the things they're trying to ban, the Latin, it's also confusing, and I just say God is permitting this because he has a greater good, and I keep telling myself, don't be preoccupied with that. Okay, their mind was preoccupied with busyness and court affairs. That's why I'm telling myself, don't this church fight between traditionals and what some people call more liberal Catholics, which I wouldn't fully agree on. But I think, people that accept Novus Ordo, well, the church has decided that, and it's valid. And I'm tired of hearing this fight. In fact, there's a book out there called Reclaiming Vatican II. Jean and I don't know if Natalie went, but some of our gang is going to a class at Annunciation about Vatican II. And I wanted to ask them, is the book Reclaiming Vatican II? And I meant to ask Jean that. I haven't talked to her yet since she's been to that.
Yeah, you'll see her tonight.
Yeah, so hopefully we can ask her. So in any case, I'm not going to get preoccupied by that busyness. I'm going to keep my focus on God and not the internal fighting, because that does us no good. And the whole thing.
Keep your focus on that Eucharist, on what's actually happening, the order of Mass, and
I'm not going to focus
the outcome
on Pope Francis and these people that say these things. I'm just not going there. That is beyond my pay grade. So and I don't get paid anything. So anyway, which is nothing, that pay grade.
Hey, our blessings are being deposited in the heavenly bank. That's way better than here, money here.
That's right. That's right. Because the Holy Family lived in voluntary retirement and poverty. Remember, the Holy Family was supposed to be the king, which Joseph was the king. I even and I found in one of my memories, I think like 2 years ago, about Joseph's kinghood from Taylor Marshall, and I'll add that link. I have to remember all these links I'm going to put in. I'm going to have to rewatch this as I'm putting them in.
Haven't you noticed how they also, how Anne and Joachim also chose poverty over, living in poverty over living how they probably could?
Well,
Because it says it there that they were very
wealthy.
And Mary and Joseph did the same thing. Mary and Joseph, like you said, but he decided to stay under everything and not be old.
They lived frugally. They were rich, but they lived frugally, meaning my younger son is like that. He owns a lot of property and he has money, but he lives he will not spend a dime. And I'm like, will you stop being so miserly? But yet if I need something, he's like, don't worry about it. I'm like, no, I'll pay you back a little. No, don't worry about it. But I still do. I pay him back a little bit all the time, and he gets aggravated with me. But when I bought my house, $55,000 cash, I had $50,000. That was all I had. So he gave me $5,000 and I paid him back. And, I believe in, you have to be careful. You don't borrow money off a family. And if you do, you pay them back, because a lot of families don't. So anyway, and that causes family fights. So I'm very, very cautious of that. So in any case, it's called boundaries and making sure that you keep them. But my son was very, he bought my mom a scooter. Medicare wouldn't approve her. Everyone had been approved, but there was so much fraud right when my mom needed one that my son just bought one for $600, and I said, I'll pay you back. Cause at the time I was still working. But I was saving my money, and he was like, no, let me buy it. So anyway, but here's the thing. That we're talking here about bringing Jesus into her readings at the end, and we're about to go into that. So I like the way she pulled that in. Seems like they're talking the Holy of Holies. The priests, once again, are preoccupied. They chose to live in poverty, but Joseph did not have he had a choice. He could have fought for his King Herod's seat, because that was rightfully his seat. But the politics and the government put King Herod in place as a puppet government. Remember, we read that. And that is known as a historical fact. So we know that. But Joseph didn't fight it. He did not do what a lot of politics, what people, and that's what I try to remind myself when I get so aggravated with politics, like what they've done to Trump and all that. I get so aggravated, but I say, God allowed this for the greater good. It's his permissive will. And I'm so glad I learned that is what God does, because it helps me to accept, so that's why I believe it's important for us to process these things, because I'm emotional too, in a different way than you are. You are emotional. Like, I feel like we have to bring our emotions and our intelligence together and use them together so that we can understand things and process things, so that we don't act out our anger. We have an understanding. And then that way, if you notice, there are some kids that act out in anger. And personally, I believe they are the more intelligent kids that are not understanding, and they don't have adults around them to teach them. Because my older son was like that, and he is he's more intelligent than me, you know. He's not always as rational. But in any case, I noticed that about kids that display that. It's because the adults around them don't know how to help them to understand things that are happening, or they don't think it's their play. They think, well, too bad, you just accept it. But intelligent people don't always just accept. So I think it's important to, you know, to take our mind and our understanding so that we can accept and move forward and accept things easier. Should we just have faith? Absolutely. But sometimes it's not necessary. We can understand things. So anyway, so they lived in voluntary retirement and poverty, meaning they accepted it. So they were forgotten in the crowd. Well, that was necessary, and God wanted that so that they could then carry out his mission. So that's why he permitted that. So, because remember, back then, they said, well, how can someone be a king, blah, blah, blah. The Jews were very into the family tree. Your status very much mattered. So Jesus could not be accepted and was not accepted by the Jews. And still to this day, many of them don't. There are Jews for Jesus, but many of them do not accept Jesus, and they do not accept Christianity. They are much more hard-hearted. And I know, I married a Jew, okay? They are very hard-hearted. So anyway, that's why I tell my daughter, you know, you have to have a Christian, and you know, we're not sure yet about our Spencer. I love him already, but I'm not sure yet because he's not doing the things that I believe he should be doing, even though I've tried to guide him. He does not have that kind of guidance from his home. So his family, they just are not, you know. Anyway, because the whole, you know, you can either live in the world or and serve, you know, the culture, or you can live in God. Doing both, you can't do both. You know, can you have money and because they have a lot of money? Yes, you can, but you have to be conscious of God, and everything you do, it has to be ethical and all. There are families that are blessed with a lot of money, but if you notice, they help people, they help the church. These are those high families that I talk about, that I admire so much, that are leaders. So you can't serve both, you know, God and, what do they call it, Jeanette? God and
world.
Yeah, I can't think of the name, but anyway.
God and man.
Right.
God and man.
Yeah, but there is a fine line, and those really fine families that we know that are special leaders in our church and in our that are part of our parishes, the families that I truly admire, and I wish I had come from that. Although my mother was a very good person and she tried, but she got a little lost. But some families never get lost, and I wish that I came from that, but I didn't. So I really admire that. So in any case, so the family lived in that, and then the more enlightened, however, I thought this was interesting, Jeanette, such as Simeon. Remember, Simeon is the one that came to Mary when she presented Christ, and he said, your heart would be pierced with a sword.
And Anne was there too.
Mm-hmm. And so here, I believe that statement is also in how the Protestants speak to her, because the next statement says that, you know, she will, you know, that she'll be, how does it go?
That your heart is going to be pierced with a sword, and he's going to be, and he is going to be, there's going to be like a lot of war and fighting over
and then
around him.
But the next
what's the word?
comma, it says, yes, the sword shall pierce through your soul, then comma, so that the thoughts of many hearts will be opened. Personally, I think that is toward Protestants because of how hard-hearted they are about Mary. So, you know, I really do feel that.
They need to all read this, especially where she came from and Anne and Joachim and everything, so they can see.
But see, they're not like us, Jeanette. Now there are people like I guess Scott Hahn and different ones that say how much they love Mary now, and they were hardcore Protestants, and their heart opened, and then they came back to the church and became great teachers. I personally believe that our Protestants are our lost teachers. That's just my opinion. Because it seems like when they come back, they really do help the kingdom of God. So I really wish that we could get across to them. So anyway, so that was all extremely interesting. Then notice they go right into here when Jesus appeared and John bore witness to him. The teaching of the Pharisees were so directly contradictory that even the signs of his coming had not been forgotten by them. They would certainly not have made them known. There was a part of God that allowed certain things to be hidden for their safety to complete the mission. So that's what I saw there. And then Herod's reign and Roman yoke had so involved them in quarrels and intrigues that their taste for spiritual things had weakened. Because remember, they know that Herod is a puppet king. They know this. But just like some people say, well, I accept the president, whether he was legitimate or not. But some of us know the Pharisees knew that Herod was a puppet king. They knew that Joseph was the real king, but they allowed this and they even pursued him. That's why he had to go underground and he went to Egypt to raise him, because that was needed for the mission to be completed. So I found that all just so interesting. They did not esteem John's testimony, and they soon forgot about him after he was beheaded. So that fast, they knew he was part of the royal family, but they just, who cares? They cared little for the teaching and miracles of Jesus, and their ideas of the prophets and Messiah were altogether erroneous. And now this is going to sound weird, but the French family, that Marie, the one that said Marie Antoinette, they said let them eat cake. They came in and they killed them, and this legacy has followed their name, that she said let them eat cake, but they say she didn't actually say that. And that one sentence says, well, they were very frivolous. Now remember, they were very young, and yeah, maybe they did have these big parties. Turns out I'm related to them. Maybe that's why I'm a little defensive of them, because Marie Antoinette, my DNA links me to her. So of course, I said, of course we come from kings and queens. My family is very arrogant, just like them. But anyway, but they were soon forgotten about. Everybody said all these horrible things about them. They were soon forgotten about. So that kind of reminds me of that, because that family, even the children were beheaded, the French family, and they no longer had royalty after that. So but I'm not saying all royalty is good. Look at Prince Charles, and he was an adulterer, and I don't care how they try to prop up their queen, and they accept that. They were adulterers, and they were terrible to Diana. I know she wasn't perfect. I know she had her things, and they try to say she cheated, but that didn't all happen until their marriage was falling apart from Charles not liking her emotional makeup. That's his fault. He allowed the crown to choose his wife for him. Well, then if he allowed it, he needed to fully follow through with it. He was you know, so I don't like that Harry at all. I don't like what he's doing to his family. Despite his father's sins, he still should be honoring his father, and has allowed that greedy gut Meghan to come and twist his head more than it was already twisted. Those two were so darn twisted.
So anyway. I am so not interested in anything to do with that family.
No, Jeanette, you're not. But a lot of people are. Pay attention to that. Just because you're not doesn't mean other people aren't, you know. So these are things in our culture, and we are supposed to be living out, you know. She was brought up in a Catholic school, that Meghan. She didn't learn one darn thing in that Catholic school. You know, I'm not saying all Catholic schools are great, but she should have learned something. At least, you know, honor your father. Anyway, so they cared little for the teaching and miracles of Jesus, and the ideas of the prophets and the Messiah were altogether erroneous. By then, they didn't care. So it's not surprising that they so shamefully treated Jesus. And I like the way she's bringing it to Jesus here, and put him to death, and disavowed his resurrection and wonderful signs that followed it. This is, they still, the Jews still to this day disavow his resurrection. So
that's sad.
Yeah, and even the fulfillment of his prophecy respecting the destruction of Jerusalem. These were all signs, you know, and it's in their writings, and they completely are hard-hearted. And that's why when I hard-heartedly look at things, I say to myself, look, I may not like this, but this is the way it is. And I try to help myself. And that's where the brain and the heart have to come together. I have to understand this. So that's what they should be doing. Jews are highly intelligent. More Jews are on not the Pulitzer Prize. There's a intelligence that an award that 50%, and I can't remember the name of it, are Jews, which, you know, I'm thrilled. I have a daughter that's Ashkenazi Jew, which was, you know, Christ was from the Ashkenazis, supposedly. So I'm great with that, but they do not accept him. They were too hard-hearted. So here they neglected the signs, his advent, and all of this, and neither taught nor wrought miracles, were the blindness and obduracy. Remember, that's the title of this, the obduracy, their stubbornness.
Let me tell you, some of these words in these chapters, guys, I'm so sorry for my reading. Oh my goodness.
It's not just your reading, Jeanette. You do really, really well.
It's really hard. That's why we go so slow, because we don't want to mispronounce anything.
No, Jeanette. It doesn't matter if we mispronounce it. And let me tell you something. You know 2 languages. You know 2 languages.
No, I know all that, but I never was a reader, and I'm really not. I like Audible books, and I like movies. So
you have challenged yourself far beyond, and I'm proud of you. Okay?
I'm just saying. I'm just apologizing, you guys.
No, don't, because these. Remember, this was written in the 1700s and the 1800s, so of course this is going to be like this. So anyway,
we're just so blessed and fortunate to have these visions. I'm so excited about them.
And here she is talking about standing in the midst of the water, and level with it is the table, and the roof of the vault, and sees the pillar or hung the coffers filled with the writings. So it's under this roof that these writings are. Her writing, they found things because of her, you know. Just like Saint Helene, the mother of, was it Constantine? The mother found the cross of Christ, which is why we were able to touch in the treasures of the church, the relics. That's why they have that, because of Saint Helene finding that, which of course this is written much far beyond that. But I'm just saying, there are certain writings that were out there that helped them find things, and that were written before then. And Saint Helene found. And how did they find the cross of Christ? Remember how he explained there were 3 crosses, and she said, have them lay upon it, and whoever was.
Oh yeah, wow,
Yeah,
that
and
was
that's how they
powerful.
discovered the healing one. They
Yeah,
laid
finish
on.
it. Finish the story because some people didn't hear it.
Oh, you,
The
can
story
you
was
read it to
that
us?
yeah, these women were, or these people were sick, were seriously ill, and they said, okay, there were a lot of crosses because in those days they crucified a lot of people. Unless you were a Roman citizen like Paul was, he
Yeah.
was lucky he got beheaded. But
Lucky,
normally,
lucky.
well, yeah, you know what I'm saying? It was better to get crucified. That's like the worst thing they can do to you
It's
is
painful.
crucify you.
Painful.
And but there were so many crosses, so they wanted to see which one was the authentic cross. So I don't know who said this. One of the people said,
Saint
okay,
Helene.
oh,
Saint,
say, okay, she said, go and these people that were seriously ill lay upon each cross.
yes.
And they did. And the one that they laid upon, all of them laid upon that were healed instantly was the cross of Christ.
And
That's how they found it.
that's how they found
Yeah.
the real cross. And I'll put the article in because it gets Saint Helena, because it gets a little lost, so I'll make sure I put that one in. So okay, so there's the cross. And Mary, those writings about Mary are there. They are, and she says they lie under Mount Calvary. I think the ruined building is a house wherein Pilate once dwelt, and the treasure will be sometime be discovered. So she is saying it will be discovered. So I find that fascinating. So here we get to John. I'm going to pause, and I really don't understand this, so I want to look up and see if I can gain some understanding, because
Oh, okay.
this was totally confusing. So let us pause and take a quick look. Okay, not to make this too long, I am going to link this, but Jeanette said I could read some to us, to y'all. To you all.
Yeah, these events are so important, and we don't really have enough in the Bible talking about the Marian part of Jesus's life. And
Right.
so this is so important, I think. So people need to know this stuff.
So what Jeanette explained to me, and see, I didn't remember this. This is why I did not understand this, and this is why I need Jeanette, because he has more, even though I've studied the Bible now 10, 15 years, it's about 15. I am a big picture person. I am not good. It takes me a while to zoom in. So Jeanette has much more zoomed in knowledge. She did readings every day on her website, even though she was following some heretical churches we pulled her out of. But she very much studied, and that's what Protestants do, which is a good thing. So that was a good thing that she did that. They just misinterpret things. So here they're talking all about Zachary, and I had no understanding what they were saying, but Jeanette remembered the story. And when I told her which one I found, it's under angelology, and Jeanette near had a heart attack. She loves angelology. That's one of the things that she had a problem with in the Protestant churches. She went into, I think it was a Baptist. They're like, there's no such things as angels. And she almost had a heart attack because she knows that there is. The Bible even tells you. So she really got excited when she heard this. So here it is. The angel Gabriel appeared to Zachary and announced the birth of John the Baptist. Well, of course I know that, but I didn't know the part where Zachary was childless, and he was promised John the Baptist. As it just, when they said this, I'm like, wait a minute, I wasn't connecting that for some weird reason. So Jeanette reminded me, because all of this, I was just like, what? Because I didn't remember that one. Go ahead.
and I don't know if it's written there in the article or not, but the reason why he was struck dumb was, I don't think Catherine Emmerich said anything about it in her vision, but the reason why he was struck dumb was because he was childless. He was like Sarah, that name Isaac, because it means laughter. She was laughing at the angels, and then she goes, "I didn't laugh." Yes, she did.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's because he was unbelieving. He might have not said it to the angel, but he thought it. And that's what we got to do, is we just got to think it and feel it, and it's known.
I just listened to an NDE where a child died, and she said God told her, guard your thoughts. Yes. That scared me a little. That scared me a little bit. We need to guard our thoughts.
Yes, because in the Ten Commandments it says you just think about adultery, and it's like you're doing it. Exactly. You gotta that's why you gotta stay away. We're very tempted in this world, guys. We gotta stay away from ungodliness, like things to see, things to go and see in person. When I was younger, in my younger years, I was very faithful to my husband always, but my girlfriends and I, when we were younger, we did go to a Chippendale show or something. We're not supposed to do that stuff, guys.
I did a job where we, you sold the clothing, and you would bring in a male dancer, and it just made me so grossed out. I was just like, I never could go to something like those Chippendales. To me, I just thought there's something wrong with men that do that. That was just too weird for me. Anyway, not to say they didn't look hot.
Well, women do it, poor things, to get money sometimes because they have to.
Yeah, but
I feel so bad, the people that have children and that have to actually do stuff like that because they educate.
They don't have to. They choose to.
Well, their education sometimes. They're not educated
enough.
No.
Do you know many of the escorts are educated women?
I don't know. I didn't look into that stuff.
They're just free. No, I know the facts. But in any case, a lot of sexually abused children, and maybe some of those men that do that. And see, I know that many people in the pornography industry have been sexually abused. So even when I was young, I didn't totally understand all that, but I knew there was something wrong in their brain for them to be up there doing that. Anyway, so and trauma can cause that kind of stuff. But anyway, so here we are, Zachary, and then she saw this ladder, and for some reason my brain was like, John the Baptist was promised to Zachary, and like she said, Sarah laughed. So the angel said to him, because Zachary's fear was obvious. So the angel spoke, and the archangel tells Gabriel, do not be afraid. Remember, whenever there is an angel that appears, Jeanette, that should be on your shirt. Angelology, do not be afraid, ...
Oh, that's perfect. Oh, I'm going to write that down.
Yeah, because remember, we learned that.
I'm going to write that down.
Remember, we learned that in our class, whenever an angel appears, the first thing they said at Christ's tomb, they said, do not be afraid, because that's what angels always say. Angelologies, do not be afraid, ... Okay, so Zachary, for your petition has been heard. Your wife Elizabeth shall bear a son. Of course I know that, but for some reason it was like, how does this relate? Duh. There you go. That's why it's important to study every day. So, people are like, well, yeah, but you're studying the same things and you're praying. When I pray the St. Bridget every day, when I pray the rosary, and I go over and over the scripture, every single day, things are revealed that relate to today. Prayer is your download, your daily download. That is how you stay close to God. I don't care if it's going over and over the same things, because you could have blind spots. Look, I had a blind spot this morning. I'm like, well, wait a minute, John and Zachary, what is this? Okay. So that is where a blind spot can happen. And he says, you shall call your wife Elizabeth shall bear a son, and you shall call his name John. Also, though, when reading these visions, just like in the beginning, Jeanette, you didn't know Noah was Noah. I knew that, but
I didn't.
yeah, I knew it. But because the way they just put no instead of Noah, even though this was Zachary and John, it's like, what? It didn't, it didn't like get me. So here he's saying, this is written by Father Hardon, but he's using from the Bible. You shall have joy and gladness, and many will rejoice at his birth. For he shall be great before the Lord, and shall drink no wine or strong drink. Once again, I think his family had, I think this is proof that alcoholism is genetic, because there are some people in my family, a lot on my father's side, that were alcoholics. Which is why I never allowed my friends would allow their kids to have a drink at the table, wine with them. I never allowed that, because I always, was worried. Luckily, none of my kids have been, but I lived a very clean life. I did not allow them around anyone who drank.
Yeah. Samson was also from that order. What's it called? It starts with an N.
The Nicene,
something like that.
Yeah, I can't remember, but yeah. So apparently in that family, they had this. And this to me is the Bible saying, because people today say alcoholism is not a disease, it's behaviors, blah, blah, blah. I still believe you're still responsible for your behaviors, but the first needs to come in parents that do not, if there's addiction in your family, there was in my family, and I did allow my niece around my daughter, and I regretted it, because she allowed some things. She allowed her to go into an Uber. One of her friends, he's kind of a semi-famous, he wrote a song about her, about Elizabeth. And, Elizabeth went to a school where my boys didn't, but Elizabeth did. I had more money then, because her father had to pay good child support. He was a naval flight officer. So I used that entire amount was to send her to private school. And so she was around a lot of people with money. And so this boy is still crazy about Elizabeth. And his mother sent her an Uber. She was a kid. And my niece allowed her to get into it. She knew I wouldn't allow it. She didn't even call and ask me. She had been a drinker. My brother's daughter, whose mother also was a drinker. So we must realize it is a real thing. And we have to be schooled in it, and teach our children, and teach mothers to teach their children. We must live clean lives if we want to stay focused on the Bible, because if you are distorted in your thinking, you cannot stay focused. I know that, because, I had the ADD, and that's and that got in my way in nursing a lot. I had to be very careful the kind of job.
In the old days, nobody knew what ADD was.
They didn't. I just knew I had a bad memory. So I had to be very careful in the jobs I took as a nurse, and I had to do things very rotely, which in the end I could no longer do, because I was doing like 8 diabetics and forgetting 3 of them. And I had to call and say, oh, I had an emergency, but it was because I was forgetting. And then that's when I decided I cannot continue, because this isn't right for my patients, and people have to be responsible. So DNA is a real thing. I mean, they're using it for crimes and everything. I love those crime shows because of the science and all that. So anyway, so here it is. You shall be filled with the Holy Spirit from your mother, even from his mother's womb. He shall be back to the children of Israel. He shall himself go before the Lord. And so this is all about this. And even though Jeanette said I could read some, I'm not going to read much. But the name of John means gift from God. And I told you I had that dream, John, and the name John, and then 5:19. Anyway, so it talks about demonic instigations, and this is a very good article. This is not just about that. So I'm going to, this is the realpresence.org angelology. So I'm going to link that, you guys. And if I were you, I would take the time to read it. As a result, let's look at this, just this one part, Jeanette. Unbelievers are always troubled within and trouble with everything they touch. If you notice, people that are trying so hard to understand God, and they're very tortured people, maybe, you know, they just don't believe. The unbelievers, they have a sense of, they don't have peace. As a result, Zachary was punished. He was punished by being deprived of his power of speech. What a lesson we should learn, that only the doubter. People that are doubters are living in pride, denial. Go ahead.
I saw the cutest bumper sticker the other day on someone's car. I gotta try to find it somewhere. It was,
you take a picture?
The K was a different letter, was like kind of like faint a little bit, like a grayish. The rest was black. So you would read it both ways. You would read no with the K, Jesus, no with the
no,
K,
Jesus,
peace.
No, yes, peace.
And then no with just the N-O, no Jesus, no peace. I'm like, wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I've seen that a lot. Next time, pull out your camera, because I see things and I grab my camera. I just block out the person's license plate when I I just go in there. If you don't know how to do that, send it to me and I'll do it for you. But I'll show you. Okay. I love seeing cool stuff.
Yeah, I do too.
So anyway, even though it's distracting. So anyway, when you trust God, you get God's peace, you know? So, you know, everything in the Mass talks about that, which we're going to be going to a class on the Mass. It's $45. But I'm willing to do it next time. Natalie and Jeanette are, you know, their timing is not good for it right now. We were going to go this week. It's at San Pedro.
Yeah, timing and
it's a whole day.
Both. Yeah.
It's a whole day. And I'm like,
no, I don't mind that. It's just
for me,
also it was $25, you know, and I'm a little tight these days because I'm not.
Yeah, because of the wedding.
Yeah, the wedding. I'm not working, and I got a surgery coming. I'm gonna have to pay for it. I don't know how much it's gonna cost, but anyway.
I know. But the thing is that my neck, because I had a surgery too, and my neck sitting that long is so hard. But I'm gonna do it for the love of God. I'm gonna do it.
Yeah, I want to do it too. And I have some questions.
You had your surgery. I told you I'll come up and bathe your mom. And if
I told my mom, she's looking forward to it.
Oh, good. And if there's anything else that you need me to do up there, I'll do the best that I can. Am I perfect at that stuff? No, I'm really not a good cleaner. It's a problem.
Oh no, I don't worry about that.
I'm not a good organizer.
I'll be fine to clean.
Nursing was good for me though, because you would walk onto a unit and it was organized and I could operate. I'm not a good setter-upper. I get my daughter to set things up for me. She hasn't really set up this apartment. That's why I'm still trying to figure out where to put stuff. But usually in my houses, her father was military. He was extremely organized. He was a naval flight officer, and he would organize for me. Elizabeth organizes for me. I mean, it's just a skill they have. I'm not, but I can. If you have something set up, I can do it. You know, the bath, I can do that. So anyway, this is not a long article. It's the Dallas Carmelites, but it's the realpresence.org, which we just left this month, which I have to change my cover photo for. We're going now into Mary. But in any case, yeah, so this is a good article. Read it when you can. So all of this, I had a little hard time because I wasn't connecting the angel and spoke words to him. Wasn't connecting, it wasn't hitting me. But Jeanette loved the part where the ladder let down from heaven. The two angels ascended and descended to him. It's just like that other one where the angel, Jacob's ladder. So yeah, God uses symbols to talk to us. So yeah, there's some here, but he signified to them by signs he had become dumb. Of course, I knew that meant not speak. And Zachary was a tall and exceedingly majestic old man. We never knew what he looked like. That's what I loved about that movie we went to, Jeanette, when Abraham, which we're going tonight to see St. Joseph. And Jeanette and I are so excited because we love St. Joseph, because we did the consecration to St. Joseph. So here we get a little glimpse into Zachary. He was a tall and exceedingly majestic old man. And just like I'm waiting for Jeanette to come back before we close this. And just like we said, tall men often did well and rose to be leaders in societies, because people that's why you'll hear little short men, because both of my husbands were 5'8". Well, they always had that little short man syndrome. A lot of short men are jealous of tall men. So here Zachary was tall and exceedingly majestic old man, Jeanette. I was just saying before, I was waiting for you to come back so we could close. But here we, just like the movie we're going to see tonight, we're going to see these character studies of these. We're going to see.
Oh, you should tell the people. Tell the people about tonight's movie.
I told them it's St. Joseph.
Oh, okay.
You tell them. You tell them.
No, you already told them. Why am I going to do it too? No.
The name and all that. You tell them.
It's called The Heart of a Father. A Heart of a Father. And right. It's St. Joseph, and it's his story. And today is his day. Today is St. Joseph. I forgot the actual
feast day.
Feast day, yeah.
But anyway, yeah, there's a lot of articles about it now. I have
only one day, one time is it showing. At 7 p.m. You can go to the Oviedo, or you can go to the Ultima 18.
Here in our area.
7 p.m.
But in their area, and it'll eventually be on Formed. But for now, if it's in your area and you want to see it tonight, you can. Otherwise, you'll see it on Formed, trust me. So here we have, just like with Abraham, we got to see what Abraham looked like a little bit. You know, yes. Do a carries to carry. Here is Zachary was a tall and exceedingly majestic old man. So it's just interesting. He came from the royalty too. So I think that is interesting that she's seeing Zachary, and he's from the royal family too. You know?
He's majestic.
So, yeah. So I thought that just like in that Abraham, we got to see a little bit of Abraham's personality. Tonight we'll get to see a little bit of Joseph. So we're excited.
I don't think Joseph was old. I think Joseph was a regular age.
Now is this a Catholic movie? Do we know?
Yeah.
That he'll be young.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no, I don't know what he's going to be. We'll see. I didn't see the movie.
Well, the Catholic Church now talks about that he was not an old man.
Oh, yeah.
Is this politically correct? I don't know. So we'll find out tonight. So we're excited.
Yeah.
So that's it, guys. My blind spot, remember that. That's why you need to study every day. My blind spot in Zachary and John, how I could just be like, what are they talking about? But also when you're reading these visions, it's hard to sometimes understand what she's talking about, which is why we are talking about it after, isn't it?
Yeah, we do a long comment, very long commentary sometimes on it. But you guys don't have to listen to all of it. If you don't have no more time, you can turn it off.
Yeah, that's why we read in the beginning.
You can do the dishes, you can do the laundry while you listen to us. Like I just folded some laundry and put it away because I had to. I don't have the time to do it after, but I was always listening.
Right.
Because if you have a busy life, God understands. But why not listen to something godly and holy to make ourselves going towards sainthood, because that's what we strive for, to be saints. Just like
your scriptural rosary. I do the sometimes I do all four, that as I'm cleaning or as
you're driving, sometimes you have a
lake.
Sometimes you have an hour on I-4 instead of listening to music or talking on the phone to whatever about whatever.
Complaining.
You're trying to do the the juggling 2, 3, 4 things at one time like we always do. I know prayer should be concentrated 100%, but if you can't, it's better than not doing it at all.
You
it's
are
better than not doing it at all.
100%.
You can pray the
If you
rosary
know the prayer
while you're driving.
The only reason I have to sit down with St. Bridget is I don't know those prayers, but I will do things while I'm doing the rosary.
I have to.
My dishes. Yeah, I'll do my dishes because I know the Our Father and the Hail Mary, you know.
Also, the Divine Mercy happens to fall at 3 o'clock, which is when I'm making dinner.
Right.
So at 3 o'clock, I'm making dinner. So 3 o'clock comes on.
I turn the song on and I listen and I pray as I listen.
Yeah, I have a timer on my phone.
Me too.
And I turn it on, and it means I have to go cook and pray.
And when we're together in a movie, mine goes off at 3:58 and hers goes off at 3 o'clock. We'll be like, beep, beep. I'm like, what the hell is that? God forgive me. And
Divine Mercy.
2 minutes later, I know, I'm like, JEANETE'S is about to go off now. And I don't say anything and it goes off. So it's always funny. But anyway, God forgive me. I cursed. I have to confess.
Well, God bless you all.
Yes.
God bless you all. Have a very blessed day. Don't forget to stop during the day to pray. Even if you're busy doing something, you can water your yard and pray a Hail Mary on every plant that you're watering.
You're waiting in line in the grocery store.
So love you guys. We'll see you tomorrow, God willing. Bye-bye.
Bye.